Welcome back to this Porsche 914 project, and in this episode we are going to be looking at the exhaust. If you've been following the story, we've had two separate leaks from the two sides of the cylinder heads, so one on the left hand, one on the right hand. We need to sort the exhaust out. That's primarily. Most people think exhausts are just a piece of tubing to get some of the exhaust gases out, but in some vehicles, on how it's built, particularly performance build, which we believe this engine is, it's really important to have a tuned exhaust. And we're also going to look at where I think it may have failed. I think part of the fault was actually to do with this exhaust, because if we look at it, that has got no fixing point, that one has got no fixing point. I'll have to double check which one of those actually pulled the stud, whether it was actually that one vibrating or that one, but I definitely know it was this side, so that could have caused just that vibration would be enough. There's only two little studs into aluminium, quite a lot of weight in there vibrating, so I'm going to put a little bit of a bracket on there. This is actually quite a good tuned exhaust. I've measured each one of these, they're exactly the same length, a metre is quite a good length. It shows that they're all identical and they're all going to be tuned in induction pulses, so it's going to be a nice little balance when it meets the collector. That's the theory anyway. As you can see, I needed a straight bit of bar to get those flanges straight and equal before I welded on my L brackets. It's just a simple bit of steel, just welded on in a little bit of an L shape. So I've just put a nice simple bracket on there, just welded on, little L shape, drilled through while it was together, and may need to open these up just a little bit. I've left loose all the joints, including the one that goes into the back box and into the collector, just so I can line it up. It's quite weird because everything that's on that bang doesn't line up, so what we're going to have to do is see whereabouts it lines up and just see if we can bend those pipes back, whereas on the other side it's absolutely perfect. It's almost like one side of the exhaust may have been bent wrong. I don't think it just doesn't quite tally up. So let's try and tweak it and get it right. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but let's have a look. If we look here, that does not tally up with one of the holes, and it's the same on the other side. You can just see there. See, that just doesn't tally up, whereas the other side fits perfectly. I've had to modify both parts of the exhaust on the right hand side. Left hand side seems to tally up perfectly and line up. If I left loose the left hand side, I still couldn't get the right hand side to tally up. So whether this side was built on a jig or whether it's actually built for a slightly different sized engine and it's off the shelf jigged up part, I don't know. But both of these need tweaking around, just a couple of degrees. I've been messing around with the exhaust gaskets and making sure everything all still lined up. So on both of them, I've had to say, funny enough, different ways as well. So it's not as if they both had to tweak around the same way. One had to go a bit more anti-clockwise, the other way clockwise. So I've had to just file out one side, and on the other side, particularly this one, I couldn't get in with a file and had to move it quite a way. I had to cut into it, so I'm going to put a bigger size washer on there. It's still going to support it. I'm going to be quite happy that that's square. I noticed when I was putting the dual Webers back on that one of the link arms just wasn't too right, and this side needed a bit of tension to push it down, so that might be pushing, that might be unbalanced to the engine. So I'd rather have just that little bit of free play in both sides. The left hand side's got a bit of tension and the right hand side's got a bit of free play in there, and that is going to be the equivalent of just putting your foot down on the accelerator a little bit, so that could make it uneven in quite a way, which might explain why it was stalling. So it's this one that just had a little bit of tension. It's a nice simple ball joint. So let's see if we can just loosen that off a little bit. What size is it? It's going to be a random size now. It wasn't a 10. This is an imperial size. 10 doesn't fit. No, that doesn't fit. Just loosen that off. And then we can adjust that bar ever so slightly. We want to make it shorter. We've got lights that... Okay, we've got lights, good. There's the flasher relay. Presume that's the fog light. Horn. Okay. That's good sign. Let's see if she'll crank her. Okay, fuel pump. Let's make sure there isn't a leak. Yes, there is a leak. So let's just try and tweak that up a little bit more. Once to tighten up this connector, I'm quite happy that it's not leaked any fuel yet. There's quite a lot of pressure coming through the fuel lines because the pump's constantly working. I don't know what pressure or what pump, whether that's original. Let's see whether it starts and runs. That pretty much tells me that the battery's starting to go flat, but at least it cranks over and everything seems to work so far. Let's get a battery charger on her. All I can say is typical UK weather. Sunshine a second ago and now it's only pouring down. So this is why we don't do projects outside in the UK, apart from that. So I'm going to put this battery on charge and I will continue either later on in the day or the next day it's not raining. Best check this shipping forecast. It's a pity we've not been able to get it running this week, but we will get there. So I'm happy those exhausts are actually sat right. I'm quite content that that's going to be less strain on the engine and the drivetrain now, which could have been why it originally failed. We don't know. It is a megaflow exhaust, and as we see, it does look like it flows mega. Oh, sorry, couldn't help that. But anyway, if you want to see how I get on and see whether we can actually get this engine running sweet, subscribe to the channel. And if you're not going to subscribe, just like the video. That will do. Even if you didn't like it anyway. Move on to the next one. If you've got any interesting feedback, leave it in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching. Share, like, subscribe. And you know what? I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully with a lovely running engine. That'll be nice. Ta-da for me.